One of the best Christmas memories was Mom always making, and she still makes, Pecan Tassies. Now, that can mean a lot of different things for different people, but really what they are miniature, almost bite-sized pecan pies. So who doesn't love them? They were always the thing that when Mom would take them somewhere, people would grab because it is just delicious little pecan pies. And it's nice because, especially at cookie, like platters or cookie plates like I talk about, you can have a couple different things and not feel like you're having a whole piece of pecan pie. So these are pretty simple to put together. The time-consuming part is just making each individual little kind of like pie or tart. So it takes a little bit of time, but it's around the holidays. What's fun about it is, you gather the family around, you get the kids in there. When my sister and I were little, we were always in there pushing the dough into each little, you're gonna do it with me, so you're gonna see. But it's fun to do with people. So it's one of those things that it makes a decent amount, but they go quickly. So we're gonna start with the dough. The dough is pretty simple. It's really like a healthy dough, which is nice. So we're gonna put in some butter. What's great about it is it does have some of these things like butter and it has some cream cheese in it, but it makes it a little bit richer dough, which is nice. And you're eating a really small amount. So the dough really makes a difference to have it be good. So I'm gonna mix the butter and the cream cheese just to make sure they're really well combined, because sometimes cream cheese can kind of get lumpy if it isn't mixed in well with the butter. So we're gonna start those and get them smooth. So you can tell this is well mixed, and I am gonna scrape down the sides because you never know if little pieces are gonna get caught in that bottom little divot or anywhere on the blade. So you wanna make sure it's just getting mixed in, which this actually is getting mixed really well. So the addition of both of these, you actually do get kind of that good flavor in the dough, which kind of sounds odd because usually there are people who eat pie for the dough and there are people who eat it for the filling. I'm a filling person, I'm just gonna be honest. But these little things have a great ratio that you don't get too much dough, you get just enough, and it's a good dough. So I'm gonna make sure to also scrape down the beater here just a little bit. That's just gonna ensure that when we're putting here now the flour in and everything else, it helps it. So before I put the flour in, I am gonna add 1 egg yolk, a measly little egg yolk. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it helps it slightly not shrink as much when you're making them. The egg yolk is mixed in. One more time, just gonna scrape it all down, just because now that we are gonna add the dry flour, it's easier and it doesn't get pushed onto the side and it just kind of mixes together better. So if there's any like cream cheese anywhere you wanna get it in there, make sure. And then I'm gonna also just make sure to clean off my spatula here because I don't want bits of anything to not be mixed in. So into that, we're gonna put our flour. Anytime I do flour, so I don't have to sift it, I instead lightly fill my cup, I overfill it, and then I just swoop it off. That is just a good way to get a better amount of your flour. Otherwise, you really should weigh flour. And it's one of those things I know I should do, but guys, these recipes, they have a little bit of give. It's not a scientific recipe here. It's just one of those good church cookbook type recipes. This is the one my mom would always submit to like church cookbooks or different ones when they were being made, because it's good. So we're gonna put in the rest of the flour. I'm gonna mix that in. It's gonna be kind of a sticky dough, but it's still gonna be a dough. So you can see the dough is made. It's kind of sticky, it's kind of gloppy. What I always like to do is before I make the filling, I put it into a bowl, all this dough, and I'm just gonna pop it in the fridge while I'm making the filling just for a few minutes to kind of firm up a little bit. So it kind of helps the stickiness not be such a problem when you're going to make the filling and actually put them together. So I'm gonna put this all into another bowl, I'm gonna pop it in the fridge, and then we're just gonna make the filling. So the dough is done, it's just the filling now, which it's kind of like a pecan pie filling, but slightly different. It doesn't have corn syrup, which so many Christmas things do, so that's a plus. We're gonna put in some butter, melted butter. We're gonna add to it all my eggs. We're doing 4 eggs total, and so that's a lot like a pie. You're gonna have kind of the custardy center that's kind of ooey and gooey, and that's exactly what you love in a pecan pie. I think pecan is one of those that it's always very holiday-ish, and usually you only have it, I feel like, either at Thanksgiving or around Christmas time. So having it like this is just a treat. So we're gonna mix those in just to make sure they're well mixed. And we're gonna add the vanilla. Vanilla, of course, with the pecans. It's kind of the main flavor ingredient other than like pecans or any of the other things. So we wanna make sure to get the vanilla in there. And then we're gonna add brown sugar. That's really what a pecan pie is. So that's gonna give it its carameliness. It's gonna give it that kind of toffee-like flavor that it kind of has in the center. Now, it looks like a lot of sugar because, well, it is a lot of sugar, but this makes a large batch of these. And this is how it's always been. When Mom made them, when anyone makes them, it always makes a large batch. So I'm gonna stir in that sugar, which is really gonna instantly kind of give me the look of what is in a pecan pie. Now this obviously, if you put it right into a pie shell, it wouldn't set up quite the same, but in these tarts, this is exactly what you need. So as I'm mixing the sugar in, it's changing right away. It looks more like kind of that ooey gooey center you expect. And while it's mixing, we have a little bit more to do. We're gonna add pecans. I've chopped them up. I do it by hand. You could do it in a food processor. Sometimes during the holidays, you just wanna, it's my workout. I can sit and chop, and then you can eat these when you're done. So I'm gonna add them in, and I kind of like, the reason I do them by hand is I like how it gives them kind of that rough texture. You kind of get all the pieces. You don't get them too finely ground. Sometimes a food processor, I find that it kind of leaves some that get too fine in the bottom and some stay too big. It's kind of hard to get them as even in such a large amount. So we're mixing the pecans. This is our ooey gooey delicious center. Now I'm gonna clean up. We're gonna start assembling. Oh, we're gonna have some Pecan Tassies and you are gonna be excited. So get everyone together and start making these. As you can see, we are to the, guys, this is the fun part. This is where it could take a little bit of time. I even sometimes break this up and do a few one evening, put it all in the fridge, do some the next night if you're doing it by yourself. So you wanna take a teaspoon measure. Now, if you have different size little individual tart pans, some of them are slightly bigger, you're gonna have to adjust. So if you have a little bit bigger ones, you're probably gonna have to do a teaspoon and a half, but you take it and it's gonna look like a very, very, very small amount of dough. And it is, but the thing is, it's the right ratio to get that dough to filling. And so what's nice is it's a very forgiving dough, so you can kind of just sit there with your fingers, press it in, and if you make a hole or if a spot looks, kind of too thin, you can kind of just push it around. Then when you get them all done on a tray, just like up to the top, it's just perfect. You take your little measure and you put in some of the filling into each one. This is literally miniature pecan pies. And what is great about it is, even though it does take time, they last usually, obviously, the whole season. If you're making tons of like gift boxes for people or taking like cookie platters, these are always just a fun thing to have on them because they're just kind of different. They're out of the ordinary. It's obvious they take a little bit of time and love. And I think especially around Christmas, I know I say this all the time, but it's true. That extra time and love is really what people notice. So I'm gonna finish filling this tray up. And then I do as ever many can fit in my oven. I like to do them on one rack so they bake evenly. So when I have this one filled up, we'll pop them in the oven, we'll pull them out. It's gonna smell amazing. Timer just went off. These are ready to pull out. This is the first batch. And as you can see, they get that nice golden brown, kind of a crackly top. So what you're gonna notice is the dough shrinks just slightly, not too much. And that's because we don't overfill them. And what's really important here, if you wouldn't measure the filling correctly, it would really wanna come up over, bubble up over the crust, and then go down underneath it. Nobody wants that. So you do wanna make sure to pay attention. Aren't these fun? These are like holiday. A friend made them for me and I just think they're so fun. They're way too hot to eat right now, but I do wanna show you. So all that butter in the crust, we didn't grease these, which usually worries people, but you don't need to because it has all that butter. And look at that beautiful color on it. It is nice, it is golden. I love that so much. If you would overfill them, they'd get stuck to it, it'd go down underneath, they would stick to the pans. Not greasing the pan though allows you to push up as you're making them. Otherwise they wanna keep falling down as you're pushing up and as they're baking, which is no good. So as these cool, I keep making them. So honestly, I know it looks like a big process and it kind of does take some time, but in the time that these were baking, 20, 25 minutes, I was able to actually get all these ready to now fill. So even though it takes some time, when you actually break it down and think about it, it's not that bad. Now these are pretty hot, but I wanna show you. So I'll just totally look at that. Okay, You get the, I'm gonna try it. Oh, you guys. Oh my. Okay. I can't even break it down for you. You get a really flaky, buttery, rich crust. And then that delicious pecan pie filling, toasted pecans, kind of a caramely, custardy. These really are so good. They remind me so much of growing up. I can't wait to give some to mom because I don't think she's made them yet this year. I hope this excites you and makes you want to start a new tradition, gather some friends around, maybe not friends this year, but people in your house, your kids, whatever it is, and make some of these together. As always, this recipe is in the description, but it's also on my website, wiseguide.com, so go check out the website for this recipe, so many other recipes. And what helps me the most is when you share these videos around, when you tag your friends, when you like them. That helps me, and it helps so many people come to the video and see how easy and fun so many of these things can be, and maybe start new traditions of their own. That's the best gift we can give at Christmas. So go in the kitchen, bake something delicious, hopefully a miniature pecan pie, pecan tassies, maybe fancy. And until then, I'm gonna keep eating. I should be making, but eating. It's so good.